Hey everybody, happy Saturday. It is Eagles game day. They play at 4:30ish today against the Atlanta Falcons at home here in Philadelphia. How do the Eagles match up against the Falcons? Well, the Falcons do have Coleman and Devontae Freeman, but we do have a great rushing defense um but it has been struggling of late. If we look at our defense, our rushing defense is still, in terms of rushing yards allowed, first in the league. But if we go by the last 3 weeks of the season, actually 4 weeks of the season, we would be ranked lower in like the top four. So analysts have cited how that's been struggling more of late, but think it would be more of a concern against the Saints with Kamara and Ingram if we have to play them than against Coleman and Freeman, who have been good backs, but not as superstar of a combo like the Ingram and Kamara combo. But comparing the two teams, on defense first, ours allows 18.4 points on average, which is fourth in the league, where we allow 306.5 yards, which is fourth as well, and then 227.3 passing yards is 17th. It's also what concerns analysts if we end up having to play the Saints. Matt Ryan does step up in big situations, so we have to really step up and guard Julio well and make sure we don't neglect Sanu, because we tend to neglect good second wide receivers sometimes, and it's really annoying. Rushing yards again was still first, but that dropped in recent weeks. But that doesn't concern me even as well. It concerns me. I actually no, I'll tell you about it. It concerns me a little bit, but not nearly as much against the Falcons than against the Saints. As long as you can stop Freeman, Coleman is a guy that has to find openings based off of how your offense is going around and get it to the outside. But if you're not running well with Freeman, they're probably going to be able to stop Coleman most of the time because he needs to get his offense created by one passing. Tevin Coleman, you have to make sure you watch out of the backfield. That's something the Eagles have struggled against a bit this year, because even when we beat the Panthers, one of the best receivers on the Panthers that game was Christian McCaffrey. So the Eagles do, now that I think about it, need to watch out of the backfield. But now we're comparing our defense, which ranks fourth in yards and points allowed, and first in rushing defense, and 17th in passing. We're going to compare ours to the Atlanta Falcons defense, which was great last year, ranks 8th in yards allowed this year, 364.8, but 22.1 points allowed is 15th. 115.4 rushing yards is 13th, so we look to use LeGarrette Blount and Jay Ajayi especially a lot today to try to get into that rushing yards. They're still in the top 10. They're 8th in passing yards out, 249.4, so I don't know if this is going to be a big game for Nick Foles. We may have to win this game by getting a rushing game going and then mixing in some play action passes to open up the field, get those deep shots down the field. Because of our rushing game going, we opened up some passes. So that might be the way we have to win and approach this game today. Now, if we compare our... Oh, sorry, that was... my phone messed up. The last thing was, if we compare our defenses, the Falcons' defense is 19.7 points per game, which is 8th, 318.4 yards, which is 9th, 214.3 passing yards, which is 12th, and rushing yards 104.9, which is 9th. So we should still try to get the rushing game going and do the same thing I said, but I read their offensive numbers by mistake at first because my phone didn't update on the web, on the website I use. And then, so comparing the offenses, we already went over 22.1 points is 15th, 364.8 yards is 8th, 249.4 passing yards is 8th, and then 13th in rushing. So that's why doesn't concern them as much, concern analysts as much against the Falcons. That if we go to our offense, we have dropped to third with 28.6 points per game since Nick Foles has come in. 365.8 yards, which is 7th. 233.6 passing yards. You're never the biggest passing yard team, but Wentz just got those huge plays that Foles has not shown to do yet. So we hope he can mix some of those in. 132.2 rushing yards, which has now dropped us to third. But that is in some some fault of the overall offense. When your quarterback's not getting anything going, your rushing game is going to suffer because then they're going to think you're going to start leaning to the run. And once you do, they're going to stop you almost instantly because they know you can't pass because your quarterback's just having such a poor game. So we have to make sure that doesn't happen in the playoffs. We're obviously 13-3 going into this game as the Falcons are 10-6, but like anybody says, in the playoffs, your record in the regular season doesn't matter anymore. It's like in baseball, your statistics get wiped away from the regular season, and your statistics restart in the playoffs. It's the same in the NFL. You have playoff statistics and regular season statistics. That's why we don't consider some all-time greats the greatest, because they were never that great in the playoffs, but they were amazing the rest of the time. So you need to step up in the playoffs is my biggest point, and there's been many teams that have had the worst record that have came through, stepped up. The Giants, unfortunately, being one of them a few times, but bottom line is the Eagles need to play great defense today, mix it, run the ball very well. Nick Foles needs to show up and have a good game. Just do enough. He just can't. Basically, what the one article I read said is Nick Foles does not need to win us this game because I think our defense and our rushing game can win us this game, but he cannot lose us this game. Which means if our rushing game is doing well and we mix it a play action, he can't make the wrong throw and throw a pick. We can't. We have to. He's been good. The one thing he's been good at has been keeping the ball in our hands. So he has to especially do that against the Falcons because they do capitalize off of turnovers. They are one of the better teams is when they get a turnover, it gets their momentum going and they start capitalizing much more. I think our Eagles can win this game. I think it's just going to be a really close game. So that's my prediction. I think we're winning a very close match. And then we'll see who will play after that. This has been the look-ahead pregame video to the Eagles and Falcons at 4:30-ish p.m. We know in the playoffs they talk longer sometimes. Peace out, everybody. This is Sports Fanatic News. I'm Joe Boric. Have a good one. Peace.